Once every 4 years, India goes to Australia to play in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. The 5 places where these test matches are going to be held are actually part of Veena World's All of Australia tour. What is Perth like?
You can go to the pinnacles and you can go to the wave rock and things and do all of that, like do a longer tour. You can also go and see the Pink Lake.
So what are some things that you could do in Adelaide?
The city is very lively. So Adelaide in South Australia is all about good food, good wine, and again art. It's a thriving and buzzing art centre. In the Great Barrier Reef, you can actually fly over a heart-shaped reef island.
Would you celebrate New Year's in Melbourne or would you celebrate New Year's in Sydney?
Sydney is really popular for its New Year. So I would give it to Sydney for this. I would say go a little before maybe Christmas time, spend it in Melbourne and then come to Sydney for the New Year's.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. Today the episode is quite topical because what you see in my hand is a kookaburra cricket ball. And we are here in November, and if I look at my watch, it's probably around 5:15 p.m. as we are recording this. But that time has come where once every 4 years or once every 3 years, India goes to Australia to play in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Now, why am I looking at my clock and saying that it's 5 p.m.? Well, because whenever India goes to Australia, it means for us cricket fans, we have to wake up early to watch each day of each test match. And there are 5 test matches. So for this episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life, I decided to pick Sunila's brain on the 5 places where the test matches are going to be held. We are going to talk about these iconic stadiums that are there in these 5 cities of Australia, and also ask Sunila what is there to do around it, because as it so happens, the 5 stadiums or the 5 places where these test matches are going to be held are Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. And all 5 of these are actually part of Veena World's All of Australia tour. So without wasting any time, let's talk about the Border-Gavaskar Trophy, India versus Australia. See, it's November. It's been 1 year since we lost that World Cup final and it still hurts. But well, we won the T20 World Cup. So this time we want to beat Australia in Australia's fortress, that is in the land of Australia. This massive country, which for tourists gives a lot. But when it comes to the cricketing connection, we just want to beat Australia. So Sunila, let's start with this episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. This is a slightly different way of us doing this episode, right? Because we are taking sport and we are bringing travel into it. And for the longest time, wherever the Indian cricket team goes, interest in that destination surely peaks. So what we'll do in this episode is that we'll go according to the schedule of this Border-Gavaskar Trophy. You have been to 3 stadiums, if I'm not wrong, out of the 5 that we are going to discuss. And we'll talk about the stadiums, but we'll also talk about what that city really has to offer in brief, because each of these cities can be an episode in itself. Now, the first test is going to be held in Perth. And it's going to be held at a stadium called the WACA, or as it's called, the Perth Stadium. What this stadium is known for is bouncy wickets. Whether it's India playing Australia or Australia playing West Indies, it was always thought of that if you're not wearing a helmet while batting at this ground, you are definitely going to get a ball or a bouncer hit your head. Now, whenever it's this first test at Perth, it's always scary for us cricket fans because we are worried that, will the Australian pacers really rip through India's batting order, or will India really stand tall and beat them? Because we've beaten them before. It reminds me of, I think, 2001 when Rahul Dravid hit the winning runs and we won the test match. So when this test match is going to be held in Perth, right, one question comes to any traveler's mind about Perth. Is Perth really worth it? Because it has never been on the first time traveler's bucket list until up to 2-3 years ago, where interest in Perth really shot up. It shot up for a number of reasons, because people were like, oh, is this the only city in Australia where you can be in Australia but also touch the Indian Ocean? So what is Perth like?
Neil, good question and a great start.
Yeah.
And I felt the same, till I reached Perth. Like when I was the Aussie Specialist Ambassador, I did go to Perth. And I'm so tempted to say this is my favorite city, but I know I'll do that to every city I speak about. So we won't go there. But closest to India is Perth in Australia in that sense. And it was very surprising. Like anywhere in Australia is fun. It's all fun. But the best part is that things are very close. So you can stay in Perth and still discover a lot of the region around it. And there are some things that you will see only here, only in Western Australia.
Like?
So if you want to do a really long trip, you can go to the pinnacles and you can go to the desert wave rock and things and do all of that, like do a longer tour. You can also go and see the Pink Lake. But what is really reachable is the Rottnest Island. And I think for me in Perth, I enjoyed that the most. You just have to take a ferry, and to go there, you reach Fremantle, which in itself is a really pretty city. So it's a port city where the Swan River meets the Indian Ocean. And from here, you'll take a ferry and go to Rottnest Island. And then on Rottnest Island, like if you've seen Roger Federer's photos with a cute little animal who seems to be smiling all the time. Like whenever you look at the animal, you think it's smiling. So that animal is a marsupial, a wallaby called a quokka.
Okay.
And clicking a selfie with a quokka became a big hit after Roger Federer put up his selfie with a quokka saying, I'm with the happiest animal on earth, And so when I was there also, I got my hands dirty, and then you're trying to because it's so small and tiny, you actually have to lay down flat on the ground and then manage to take a selfie. But it's really cute. It's very, very sweet. So definitely a quokka is something that you find only at Rottnest and only in Western Australia near Perth. So definitely that's one thing. But Rottnest Island itself is so beautiful. The color of the water was so blue, so stunningly blue that I couldn't take my eyes off it. And I was sitting there by the cafe and enjoying a nice meal and looking at the water. And then there are so many adventure activities. You can cycle, you can do a Segway ride all around the island. You can take a bus tour along the island. I would say leave at least a day to do that, like Fremantle and Rottnest from Perth. And the city itself, Neil, is stunning. So it's like, I think I like to describe Perth like an art museum, because there's graffiti wherever you go. There's graffiti on the walls, everywhere. And you can actually do a walking tour as well. But even otherwise, when you're simply walking, you'll see, like we know that in Melbourne, also in Hosier Lane, we can see the graffiti.
Yeah.
But Perth takes it to the next level.
Oh, really?
There's like huge graffiti and a lot of art in the city. There's this huge kangaroo statue that you can stand by and so many other things. So it's a delight to just walk in the city.
Awesome. I think that's a great start to the episode. So the first test is in Perth. Now, if you recall our episode, which we did on train journeys in Australia, we spoke about the Indian Pacific, which is a train journey that goes from Perth to Sydney. The course of this test series is also may be along the route of this.
That's interesting.
This train journey, because it starts in Perth and goes to Sydney. It is one of the longest train journeys in the world. The train track that has been laid out, it passes through towns where one town has a population of, if you remember, only four people. The train track is so straight, it is one of the straightest train tracks in the world. So from Perth, we leave after the first test. And the second test is in a city that is very connected to one of the greatest cricketers ever, Sir Don Bradman. So the second test is in Adelaide, and it's a day-night test. And a day-night test means instead of the regular ball that we use in test cricket, which is the red ball, a pink ball is going to be used. And that is the only day-night test that is held during this entire test series. Now, when you talk about Adelaide, the ground that it is going to be played on is the Adelaide Oval. And if I were to tell you, there was one thing I think you missed out telling about the WACA is the scoreboard, right?
Yes.
What was this unique about the WACA scoreboard?
So the WACA scoreboard, Neil, is manually, they change the score manually. It's not a digital scoreboard, and you can actually see how they do it. So when we reached there, we were really lucky and they were very nice to us, and they let us inside the scoreboard. So from behind, you can actually climb up and see how the score is changed. we also had a free hand and we were changing the score the way we want. Of course, there was no match playing. But yeah, and then you can put your head out from the scoreboard and see how the ground
What's
looks.
happening, right?
So it was very interesting to see that someone is actually manually still doing this at the Waka, because everywhere else it's all digital.
The reason I brought it up, because the Adelaide Oval is also one of the only grounds along with the Waka where the manual scoreboard still holds significance, because across the world the scoreboards are now digital, like you said, right? And having this manual scoreboard really brings that connection of this ground having some historical significance. And a lot of the historical significance comes from Sir Don Bradman scoring many of his crazy knocks at the Adelaide Oval. Now, another thing is that the Adelaide Oval is often considered one of the most picturesque grounds in the world. Now, this is what most blogs say. I personally think that the Dharamshala cricket ground is the most picturesque cricket grounds in the world, period, because the mighty Himalayas or the ranges that you see there are just crazy. But speaking of the Adelaide Oval, the unique thing about this, like I said, is the pink ball test, which is this pink ball that is used in the day-night test. But when you go to Adelaide Oval from Western Australia, the state of Western Australia, you're hitting a second state in Australia, which is South Australia. Now, from Adelaide, you can do a lot of excursions, is what I've often read. I've never been to Adelaide. So what are some things that you could do in Adelaide and surrounds?
Like you mentioned, in Adelaide, the oval, the grounds are really picturesque, and the best way to check that is to do a tour. And you can actually go to the rooftop. So they have an Adelaide Oval rooftop tour, which is quite unique, and you can go up there and see the grounds for yourself. The city is very lively. So Adelaide in South Australia is all about good food, good wine, and again, art. It's a thriving and buzzing art center. So Adelaide is like where the good life is. You hear all about the Aussies having the perfect work-life balance. I think you can see it in action in Adelaide. And from Adelaide, there are two really nice excursions that you can do. You can easily do them in a day, or if you have more time, you can extend your stay and stay there. And the first one is Barossa Valley, which I think produces some of the finest wines in the world. And there are some wineries which will even let you like blend the wine, and then you can put your own label on top of the wine bottle as well. So that kind of works really well with corporates, because a lot of the matches are when the corporates would want their guests to come in and see the matches as well.
Yeah.
And then, once you're there, why not extend it and do a little tour and go around and see the area? So I think Barossa Valley with the wine tastings would be a great add-on. A second add-on, I would say, is what most of our tours do, and they really love it, is Kangaroo Island.
Yeah.
Like the name itself is so endearing, like Kangaroo Island. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
Australian kangaroos, and imagine an island where they are roaming free. And one more thing here, like we talk of all these Instagrammable places around the world. So on Kangaroo Island is the Remarkable Rocks. And then you sit anywhere. If you've seen the photos, you will know the best shots and the best angles, but every angle is good because the rocks really, I mean, it's a no-brainer why they're called Remarkables, right? You look at them and these are the Remarkable Rocks. So really stunning place. And so that's like two excursions that you can easily do from there. That's also Flinders Chase National Park. So a lot of natural beauty in and around this city. And South Australia, I would say, especially Adelaide, is also a great point to get in if you want to visit Uluru and Ayers Rock.
Yeah.
So going up towards Northern Territory, it's a good combination that way. And then we spoke about the Ghan as well. So for all of that, Adelaide becomes a good connecting
It
point.
becomes a good central point,
Yes.
right? With the Ghan, you can go from Adelaide up until the northern point of Australia where you will find Darwin. So that's pretty cool. All right, Sunila. Now let's talk about the third test. The third test match is in the capital of the state of Queensland. It's in Brisbane. Gabba, like I said, used to be called the Fortress, is probably no longer a fortress when you think of India versus Australia, because we've beaten them there. And we took the cricket series, we won the Border-Gavaskar Trophy in Australia, and we beat them convincingly. But the third test this time is going to be at the Gabba, which as a city, Brisbane is known for its subtropical climate. It is on the eastern side, and as you go north on the eastern coast of Australia, it gets warmer, and then more fun activities also come about, like you can go to the Great Barrier Reef and do a lot of other things. Now, speaking of the Gabba comes the name Gabba of the stadium comes from the suburb where it is located, which is known as the Wollongabba. And it was the place in Test cricket where the first ever tied Test match was ever played. In Australia versus West Indies was that Test match. It ended in a tie, and that was where it was held. Now, whenever you watch a Test match at the Gabba, it's just fun watching it because the weather's amazing, and because the weather's amazing, it just feels nice watching. So, if I go to Brisbane, what is there to do in Brisbane?
Well, there's so much to do, and I think Brisbane is a very dynamic city. Like, there are so many things happening, and I think every few years that you go, you're going to see a lot of changes out there, right? Like, there's so many new hotels coming up, like luxury hotels, and they're really taking development very seriously out there. So the South Bank, with all its cafes and other things, is a place where you should go. There are a lot of food trucks there as well. So, I would say to try different food and the famous Aussie whole culture of food and tasting, Brisbane would be a good place to go to. If you like adventure, then, we spoke of climbing the rooftop Adelaide Oval. And you know that in Sydney, you can do the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb.
Yeah.
Similarly, in Brisbane, you have the Story Bridge, and you can have an adventure climb and climb up that bridge as well. So
Australia seems like the country where you climb a lot.
Yes, you climb a lot, you climb bridges, but it's really easy. That's the best part,
Anyone can do it.
You look at it and you feel, oh my God, that's difficult, but it just looks difficult. It's really quite simple. And then you have these amazing views, you have amazing photographs to take home. So I think it works really well. I thought one more really unique thing to do here is to take the river cruise and then with the river cruise reach a koala sanctuary.
Okay,
so
that's
the
pretty
Lone
cool.
Pine Koala Sanctuary is something that you can actually take a cruise and go to. Like, you don't have to use other modes of transportation. And then here you can see koalas, platypus, all the animals that Australia is famous for. But of course, mention of Brisbane cannot be without all the excursions that you can do from here. You go north, you go south, you go east. Wherever you go, there's always a beautiful island or a beach waiting to be discovered. So, the most famous, of course, is a little south, is Gold Coast. And like the name says, it is really a beautiful place. Amazing surface paradise. You can do scuba, you can do surfing, you can learn how to surf as well, which is a really fun thing to do out there. If you extend your journey a little beyond Gold Coast, then you come to Byron Bay, and then you can actually drive all the way to Sydney with the Pacific Highway. So it's one of the most stunning drives with the ocean by your side and absolutely, all shades of blue. So that is something which is really quite stunning. You can take a ferry or a helicopter ride and go to Moreton Island, or which is commonly known as Tangalooma. And then you can also indulge in some dolphin feeding here. So there are some very unique experiences that you can expect. So Tangalooma is again something that you should definitely think of. And then if you go north, then you can go to the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
And then again, of course, you can drive. We had a request of someone who wanted to drive all the way from Brisbane to Cairns. And then I told her,
that's a long drive.
It's a very long drive. They were trying to fit it in 7 days. And I said, not possible.
But it would be a picturesque drive because you will see a lot of raw Australian beauty, right? And raw Australian beauty can be everything, like rainforests and
the state has everything. They have rainforests, they have beaches, you name it. They have mountains. I mean, all kinds of things. So along with all of that comes zip lining, waterfalls, islands. Just go off the mainland and you're in Great Barrier Reef. Hayman, Hamilton, luxury properties, anything and everything. So there's a lot to work around from Brisbane.
Speaking of driving from Brisbane to Cairns, if you go north of Cairns also, if you're adventurous, and if you look at the map of Australia, you'll hit the northernmost tip of Australia. Now, I was doing an episode with Raina a long time ago, and Raina told me that, Neil, what's the unique thing of hitting the northernmost tip of Australia? You'll reach a beach. And you'll reach a beach where if you stand in one place, on that same beach, you can see the sunrise. And on that same beach, you can see the sunset.
Amazing.
But to get to that is a long, long drive. But it seems like a magical place because generally you go to a beach, you'll see the sunrise or the sunset, right? But imagine standing on a beach where you could see the sunrise and the sunset. Probably in the Maldives you can do that because you have those villas right.
Even there,
yeah.
you have the sunrise and the sunset villas. So
Yeah.
they don't let you have it all in
All
one
right.
villa, Neil. So you have to book two.
You can't
Yeah.
do sunrise, then check out and go to the
No, you can't,
sunset
you
villa,
can't.
right? Okay,
So,
awesome.
yeah.
So,
But like you mentioned, I just want to add that Queensland as a state is home to so many unique things. You mentioned about sunrise and sunset together. In the Great Barrier Reef, you can actually fly over a heart-shaped reef island.
Oh, wow.
So, if you want to propose or if you're on your honeymoon.
Yeah, ideas for
isn't
anyone
that
wanting to
the best
propose.
thing to do is when you're flying over the
so what,
heart-shaped.
can you just take a helicopter, rent it out?
You can just take a helicopter ride and fly over the reef that looks exactly like a heart, and I'm sure they see the maximum proposals out there. You can actually one other thing that I really like is a pontoon stay. So you
What is
can it's like a house on water, and you can just go and stay there overnight. So when you wake up, it's you enjoying the whole barrier reef to yourself. And then go snorkeling, go do your diving, do all of the other things that are so interesting.
I'm sure the water babies out there, the people who love water, just would dive onto such an opportunity. And proposing to someone over a heart-shaped island, that's quite unique. That's definitely a bucket list for people who are not married yet and are looking to propose. So that's a great experience. Now, one of the best things of the Border-Gavaskar Trophy when it's held in Australia is that it's done in such a way that you cover 5 states of Australia through the 5 grounds. We've done Western Australia with Perth. We've done South Australia. We've done Queensland. Now, the third test, and probably the most famous test match of not only the Border-Gavaskar Trophy, but any Australian summer, is the test that begins on the 26th of December, which is Boxing Day. And it's the Boxing Day test. It is held at one of the oldest cricket grounds in the world. It is held at the largest cricket ground in the Southern Hemisphere. It is held at the same stadium where they don't only play cricket, but they play Australian football. And in the state of Victoria in Australia, Australian football, which is similar to rugby, is very popular. And every Sunday during the winter, spring and autumn season, it's not cricket, but actually Australian football that is played at this stadium. It's the Melbourne cricket ground. They often call it the Mecca of cricket. They often call it the stadium where there's a lot of history. And whenever, you've also been there, whenever you go there, you're just like in awe. The Melbourne cricket ground and the Boxing Day test is so famous that on Boxing Day, that is day 1 of that test match, more than 1 lakh people actually come to attend this Boxing Day test. And that record was only beaten by one person very recently, and that was Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift had more than 1 lakh people, I think, at her concert at the Melbourne cricket ground. But why was it beaten? It was beaten because there were people who were sitting outside the stadium trying to listen to her concert while it was playing, and just because they couldn't get tickets. Swifties, right? And wherever Taylor Swift goes, the economy of that particular city or country really prospers, as we've seen. Now, speaking of Melbourne, there's the Melbourne cricket ground. You'll probably attend the Boxing Day, and if you plan to attend the Boxing Day, please get tickets early. What should you do when you're in Melbourne?
Neil, I think Melbourne is a city where you can just keep going again and again and discover new things. You live there, so you know the city really well. But I've seen that in so many travels, it's every time I go and I feel, oh, I didn't see this before. Or I saw this and I want to go back and do that again.
Yeah.
I find it a very walkable city, which is what I enjoy. It's kind of quite compact. Like what I love about Melbourne is the CBD, or the Central Business District, as they say, is so compact that you can quickly get from one place to the other. And very often in India, we miss that, right? We miss walking in our cities. Like either the distance is too much or the weather is not that great. But Melbourne has great weather. It can get quite cold, but you enjoy walking in the cold as well. So definitely it's a very walkable city. I think the heart of the city is Federation Square, and everything revolves at Fed Square, as they say. So simply just going and sitting there and relaxing and, watching everything life as it happens, we can say. Or sometimes there's a demonstration. The last time I was there was some demonstration running there, actually by the Indians living in Victoria. So it was quite interesting. And then, like they say, meet me at the clock. So you can go to the Flinders Street station and meet whoever it is you want to meet just below the clock. And the story there again is that the design for that, we've spoken about this before, but it was supposed to be the one in Mumbai, CST station. And then the plans
The
got
plans
changed,
got interchanged.
and then, well, we like our train
The story
station
that I
there.
have heard is not actually CST station in Mumbai, but it was the Howrah Bridge station
In Kolkata.
Kolkata. Yeah.
Okay,
So
but mostly in my research, what I've come across is Mumbai,
Oh, yeah?
but maybe it could be one of the two, right? Anyway, the station is really, really beautiful. And of course, one more thing is that there are outlets, shops in Melbourne in the city.
yeah.
Usually there are outlet shops always
DFO,
really
yeah.
far off, but DFO, and my friend Veena went there last and she loved, I think she spent a whole day and a lot of her money out there. So that I would recommend, because otherwise shopping in Australia can be expensive.
Yeah.
But DFO makes life really easy for those who want to shop and pick up some Aussie goods when they're coming back. And then you have the Edge Observatory, where you can actually stand on the glass floor and enjoy the view from there as well. And of course, the number of excursions from Melbourne are so many. I
Yeah,
mean,
like Mornington Peninsula, Grampians,
Phillip Island,
Great Ocean Road.
Great Ocean Road. The Grampians are a little too far to do it in one
Yeah.
day, but it's a good drive, and then you can kind of do a whole round trip. The last time I went there, I went to this place called Geelong.
Yeah.
And Bellarine, and oh my god, it was so cute and stunning, because all by the ocean you have these wooden bollards that are put there, and there's a story for each one. So it's fun to go and read the stories that why is this particular bollard or this statue in the sense
Yeah.
put up here, and what is painted. Very cute, and a really nice promenade to walk on. Amazing for cheese and all the other things out there. And then of course Yarra Valley, like Yarra Valley with its wineries. There's a chocolate making factory out there that you can visit as well. But the wines in Yarra Valley were really quite interesting. You can sit down, have your wine tasting, do so many other things. And then there's actually a cable car as well. So you have, you can come down by the cable car. You can go to Mornington Peninsula, has lavender and again a maze and gardens. So I think the state of Victoria is blessed in that sense, that you can always be doing something different in the morning and something different in the evening. Coming back to the city of Melbourne, another one thing that I like to do is the buy lane store. You can actually do like a walking tour. You can do it yourself if you have the route, or you can join one of the tours, and then they take you to experience what we both love, is the coffee culture of Melbourne.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Amazing. I mean, there are small hole-in-the-wall cafes to extensive large cafes as well, but the cafe culture in Melbourne is something everyone should enjoy.
I think you've covered all of it, but I often like to have 3 things that I recommend people doing when they are in Melbourne. One, you mentioned the coffee. Second is the brunch in Melbourne, because the brunch in Melbourne is exquisite. And the third thing I would say, you mentioned that Victoria as a state is blessed, but I would say that's coupled with Melbourne being one of the most planned cities in the world. The city is planned in such a way where you will have a brunch place, a lunch place, a dinner place, wherever you are. There is a Chinatown. There are Vietnamese corners around the city. If you want Thai food, you'll have a great Thai food culture out there. If you want factory outlets, there are factory outlets. There's the MCG. Right next to that is Rod Laver Arena and the Australian Open Park. Very sporty city. There is Yarra Valley. There's also the Yarra River, where you can go boating with your family and loved ones. There is Queen Victoria Market. Then there's also South Melbourne Market, which people go to on weekends. So a lot to do. And even if you plan to attend all 5 days of the Boxing Day test, or 4 days, you can still do something. Now, once you finish the 4th test, starts on the 26th of December, and by the time it ends, it's time to celebrate New Year's. Now, before we go to the 5th test, because the 5th test is in Sydney, would you celebrate New Year's in Melbourne, or would you celebrate New Year's in Sydney?
I mean, Sydney is really popular for its New Year. So I would give it to Sydney for this. I would say go a little before maybe Christmas time, spend it in Melbourne, and then come to Sydney for the New Year's. The festivities are really known all across the world. And, during New Year's time, all of us wait and see when it starts in Sydney, and we know that we'll be celebrating
the
it soon, right?
fireworks on the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House.
Though I've had some people really go in and say that, give me a room with the view of the Harbour Bridge so that I don't have to step out, and I'll enjoy everything from my room.
That's worth paying that additional thousands of dollars for I think.
those nights, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So 5th test. called the pink test, not to be confused with the pink ball test, which is in Adelaide. The pink test is actually dedicated to the foundation that Glenn McGrath and his ex-wife, and who sadly passed away due to cancer, the foundation that they have, and it's known as the pink test. And one of the, I would say, coolest things, but the greatest and nicest things of the pink test in Sydney, which is held at the Sydney Cricket Ground, is that all through the test match, you will see pink everywhere. You will see like the players wearing pink caps. You will see people dressed in pink. You will see pink cups. You will see pink plates. Everything will be in pink. And with Sydney's tropical climate, it is just a wonderful setting for a great series. And I'm sure this Border-Gavaskar series is also going to be an amazing series. And hopefully by the 5th test match, we are sure of winning this test series. Now, speaking of the Sydney Cricket Ground, now we've done a full episode on just the Sydney Cricket Ground with our friend Gail. From the Sydney Cricket Ground.
She had such amazing stories.
She had so many stories.
Sachin slept on the table. It was fun.
I mean, we'll not get into the stories because we'll just give a link in the description. But like the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the Sydney Cricket Ground has now a gate dedicated to Brian Lara and Sachin Tendulkar, right? And we have seen a lot of our tourists who are going to the Sydney Cricket Ground come back really impressed with it because there's so much history associated with it. In summer, because it's Australian summer, what are some of the things that you recommend?
In Sydney, I think you can spend a week doing things, just in the city itself. And I remember I had seen some photos, and you showed me some photos as well, of the pools that are made by the beach, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually go swimming anywhere and everywhere. I think if you're going in summer in Australia, have your swimming trunks or your swimming costume
with you all throughout.
All throughout, wherever. Even if you plan that I won't go swimming today, just keep it because you never know when you're going to need it, and you can need it anywhere and at any time, right? I remember I was there in summer and it was like about 4 o'clock and I'd gone for one of those recce trips that we do for one incentive group. And I saw people walking as if in a rush at 4 o'clock with the surfboards. And I asked the locals what's going on. And he said, well, it's such a beautiful day. You can't waste it, right? So everyone's just leaving office and going swimming. And I said, this is the life I want. So that's pretty amazing. So you see that in Sydney everywhere you go. I would say because the days are going to be really long, spending your evening by Darling Harbour is one of the really nice things to do. Because there's just so many attractions right there. Like you can, look at wild animals out there at the Sea Life Aquarium. There are so many things that you can do at the Darling Harbour itself, and then take a cruise and go along Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. So it's really nice. So when I was there the last time, it was actually full moon, and the Opera House at full moon on a cruise was stunning. But even by day, it is really quite pretty and a must do, I would say. A harbour bridge is something. Yeah. And then going into the Opera House itself, because the architecture of the Opera House, and we've spoken about that as well earlier, but it's unforgettable. You have to take the tour from inside, So in Sydney, you're going to be busy day and night, whatever you do.
Oh, wow. So, and what about excursions? Like from Sydney, do you recommend going anywhere? I've heard of the Blue Mountains or something.
There are so many things. So you can, of course, do the Blue Mountains. If you want to escape to a cooler place, especially in summers, then the Blue Mountains is a great place because you'll automatically be at a height and you can spend a good two days there. You can see the caves there. You can take the funicular. There's so many things to do. Along with that, you can go to Jervis Bay and go dolphin watching. So you can have a nice dolphin watching cruise. You pass by the Kiama blowhole where the water just comes out from the blowhole. Every time the wave comes rushing in, it's also quite sweet and definitely a good stop. But Jervis Bay is nice, and you can sit down by the bay, enjoy a meal, go out, see dolphins there.
Awesome. Well, that concludes the 5 test matches. Let me end with one question. When is your next trip to Australia?
Actually, hopefully, I will be there first week of December, back to Melbourne.
Really?
So, let's see what new things I discover out there.
So, what is your itinerary this time?
I have no clue as yet. It is
going to be decided by the people taking you.
Yes, and it's a panel discussion. So, I'm going for some, meetings with the stakeholders. But hopefully, we'll come back with more ideas on what to promote
Pretty
for
good life.
Australia and Victoria.
I went for a panel discussion yesterday to Churchgate. You're going to Melbourne, so that's pretty cool.
Some people have it, Neil.
Awesome. So let's end the episode on this. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. Tell me, what do you think? If you had a choice, which of these 5 test matches would you attend, or which of these cities of Australia would you attend? And what are your predictions for this 5 test series between India versus Australia? So that's it from us this week. Indian cricket team, all the best. Get the Border-Gavaskar Trophy home. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.